My boss once called me useless in front of the entire office. People laughed, some out of fear, some because they agreed. But today, I sit in his chair, at his desk, signing documents with my name where his used to be. Let me tell you how I went from useless to becoming his replacement. When I first joined Harrington & Company, I thought I'd landed my dream job. I was fresh out of college, armed with a degree in business administration and an optimism that could power a city. The office was tall glass and steel, the kind of place you imagine when you think of success. People in crisp suits moved fast, coffee in hand, confidence in every step. And then there was me, clutching my new employee badge, trying not to look too nervous. That's when I first met him. Mr. Carter, regional manager, sharp suit, sharper tongue, the kind of boss people feared, not respected. He scanned me up and down like I was a typo.
So you're the new analyst. Try not to get in the way.
That was his welcome. The first few weeks, I worked hard. I mean, really hard. Stayed late, took notes, volunteered for tasks nobody wanted. But to him, I was invisible, until he wanted to make an example. During a team meeting, I presented a report I'd stayed up 3 nights preparing. My numbers were solid, my recommendations clear. I thought I'd done well. He leaned back, smirked, and said loudly enough for the entire department,
"This is useless, just like you."
The room went quiet, then awkward chuckles. My ears burned. I wanted to sink into the floor. That became routine. Every mistake, mine or not, was pinned on me. Every success he took credit for. Once, I suggested a new marketing strategy. He shut me down in the meeting, then pitched the same idea to upper management a week later, word for word, as if it were his own. He got applauded. I got silence. I thought about quitting. Many nights, I sat staring at my resignation letter draft. But something inside me refused. If he saw me as useless, I wanted to prove him wrong, not by telling him, but by showing everyone else. So I started a new routine. I came in early, before anyone else, and stayed late. I studied financial models, marketing campaigns, everything I could get my hands on. I asked questions quietly, learned from people in other departments, and built skills outside my job description. While Carter insulted me, I was sharpening myself. One night, while staying late, I overheard something that changed everything. Carter was on a call in the conference room, his voice carrying through the thin walls.
"I told you, the projections will cover it up. No one needs to know about the missing accounts."
Missing accounts? Cover it up? My curiosity sharpened into suspicion. I dug into the financials he'd signed. Buried under layers of numbers, I found discrepancies. Funds moved to consulting fees that didn't exist. Expenses doubled under different names. It wasn't just sloppy. It was deliberate. He was embezzling money. I didn't act immediately. I wasn't stupid. I kept collecting evidence, screenshots, printouts, time-stamped emails. I built a file so airtight, no one could ignore it. Meanwhile, Carter's abuse escalated. In another meeting, he barked at me.
"Daniel, if incompetence were an Olympic sport, you'd win gold."
People laughed again, but I noticed something different this time. Their laughter was strained. They were starting to see through him. The breaking point came during a high-stakes project. A major client needed a complete business model in less than 2 weeks. Carter dumped it on me and sneered.
"Don't screw this up. Not that you could do anything else."
I worked like a machine. Days blurred, nights dissolved. When I finally presented the finished model, the client was blown away. They signed a multi-million-dollar deal on the spot. The CEO congratulated Carter. He accepted with a fake, modest smile, never mentioning my name. But the client's CFO leaned across the table, shook my hand, and said,
"Your insights were sharp. Impressive work, young man."
Everyone heard it. Carter's smile faltered. For the first time, the spotlight slipped from him to me. After that, things shifted. People started coming to me for help.
Daniel, can you double-check these numbers?
You are good with clients. Could you look at this presentation?
Carter noticed. His insults grew sharper, more desperate.
Don't get ahead of yourself. You're still nothing without me.
But he was wrong. I wasn't nothing anymore. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. A quarterly audit revealed the financial irregularities I'd already documented. The auditors flagged missing funds, unusual transfers. Carter tried to bluff, but the numbers didn't lie. I stepped forward. Calm. Ready. With respect, I've been reviewing these accounts. I can show you exactly where the discrepancies are. I laid out the evidence, clean, clear, undeniable. The room went silent. Executives leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Carter's face drained of color.
This is a misunderstanding.
But it wasn't. The CEO ordered a full investigation. Within weeks, Carter was suspended, then terminated. The day he cleared his desk, he didn't look at anyone. Just shoved papers into a box, jaw tight. As he passed my desk, he muttered, barely audible,
You think you're better than me?
I didn't answer. I didn't need to. 2 weeks later, I was called into the boardroom. The CEO shook my hand.
"We need someone steady, capable, and trustworthy to step in. We think you're the right choice."
I walked out of that room with a promotion into Carter's old position, his office, his responsibilities, his title. Now every morning, I sit in the chair he once called his throne. People knock on my door for guidance. My name is on the reports, the contracts, the victories. My boss once called me useless. He thought humiliation would break me, but all it did was forge me. He fell by his own lies. I rose because of my work. And every time I sign a document with my name on the line where his used to be, I remember he tried to make me small. Instead, he made me unstoppable.